Perfect. Welcome to everybody. I am Paolo Borloni, and I will give you a quick review about what is the special beam detector like ILIA Pro of the ILIA line is, and which are the main features, and also some differences with as regard the with the other competitors to understand why we can use ILIA in practically every kind of installation, especially of very problematic installation. So this is the main point we will go on. So what is exactly a beam detectors? The fire code of practice and fire standards to understand for the installation, the security on beam detectors, project installation with beams, and some references. This is me, and I work in fire detections since more than 30 years. And in the last 18 years, I am in the beam detector field. We just produced these. And on the other side, I'm also a member of the Italian standard organization, and the TC72 has regard the standards for all the kind of product for fire detection. So what is a beam detector? Beam detector is a device, an optical device that uses a projected beam of light of infrared to detect the smoke across large areas. This means that normally you have the beam detector that works from one wall to the other wall of the site you want to protect to have the maximum coverage of the area with this kind of beam. When some smoke entering in the path of the beam, this will decrease the infrared signal, and this is what means that we have the alarm. Clearly, the alarm is given not with every kind of quantity of smoke, but the one you have set it of the threshold of the detector. And with ILIA, you will see that we have at least 16 different thresholds that can be set depending from the environment in which you will detect the smoke. They are used to detect fires in buildings where standard point smoke detectors would either be uneconomical or restricted for use by height of the building. I know that you come from different countries, and in all the countries there is different standards as regard maximum height for a point detector, beam detector, heat detector, and so on. But anyway, it's clear that especially in very harsh areas and where there is big height of these buildings to protect, the beam detector is the first choice. This is the two different kind of beam detectors that can be produced and certified all over the world. The first is operating in principle based on optical beam attenuation. So it works like an opaximeter and means that we have to set a percentage of obscuration, and with this percentage, it will work. When we reach the percentage, he gets the alarm. The second one is based on the same principle, but has also the change of modulation of the infrared optical beam. And this is as it works, ILIA. Which are the main difference? So the main difference is that the second model, as ILIA is, it's more precise, as it's not only look if there is an obscuration of some percentage, but with a spatial algorithm, he looks also if there is a modulation of the smoke in the air before to pass any kind of alarm. So these, for example, prevent in many cases the false alarm. You have to know that when ILIA detect a principle of smoke, he has to check of the areas for around 15 seconds before to pass the alarm. So to check that exactly what is passing by, it's smoke and not any other things. This is how it works. And clearly the basic is for all the detector the same, but as regard this product transmitter and receiver, we have this functionality. So we have a transmitter unit, a receive unit. We have an emitted beam that crosses all the areas and works as told for the smoke absorption. ILIA has also, and is the only one on the market, that can give you also the modulation in frequency of fire. So it sorry, it means that it doesn't detect flames, but the moving of the heat air in case of a starting of the fire without smoke at the beginning, or if you have, for example, in industrial application, some machinery that can go in overheating and then burn. So we are able with ILIAS to detect all these phenomena, get the end of that, and give the alarm in any case. Also in application when we have completely different kind of materials that can have smoke in the beginning of fire or immediately fire and then smoke, with this kind of detector, you can surely protect the both. If you see, we have the emitted beam in the middle, but then we have a cone, because you have to remember that the beam detection has not only the transmission of the beam between the two lenses of transmitter and receiver, but also the emitting cone with special lenses that can enlarge all the areas to protect in any direction. This is normally what we talk about. So 1 meter beam diameter is what can cover normally a beam detector. You have to know that with ILIAS, if you use for more than 120 meters, for example, you can reach, improving the infrared power of the transmitter, a cone of more than 2 meters. So it means that you can protect a very wide area with a real beam that is not only in the middle of the detector. This also means that if you want to work in a very good way with a good threshold and a good response to the fire, to the smoke, the 1 meter beam diameter must be in any case observed. Then we can work also in a very narrow spaces, maybe 30 centimeter. It works, but it cannot be in any case so precise as it had to be. Well, why use a beam detector? One of the reasons is to overcome some of the limitation of spot type smoke detector, extreme sailing height, large open area, stratification of the smoke, hazardous area with the ATEX version of economy of scale for the installation and also for the maintenance. Some limitation also has to be considered and not exactly for ILIAS in reality, but okay, we have some reason in which you can have false alarm in many cases, and is when we have the buildup of dust, dirt, or other debris, and this is lower than detection threshold of the detector. So this can cause to the system the anti-alarm where no fire was present. Modern devices now use automatic gain control as means of adapting the signal for these effects, and ILIA has it. So we have a self-adapting inside microcontroller that can increase the signal time by time, arriving to the maximum that is allowed by the standard for detection. So these preserve from false alarm. In the picture, you can see how is the detector with a little bit of dust, but it works in any case. Also because the front filter is not glass, it's a special kind of plastic that is reactable for the 99% of dust. Another thing is that eventually you can also increase the power of the detector by the ground using the controller. We will see after this some basic feature of this remote controller of ILIA. And sorry, we have to say that ILIA has inside a possibility when he reached the maximum of the signal, in reality the minimum of the signal, to give a message of warning, because it's the time of maintenance. With the maintenance that ILIA has, we will give a signal to the control panel, and you know that ILIA continue to work, because also if it is in maintenance, continue the normal job, because fire is in any case what you have to detect, and so is the first in any case. But we have to understand that we are near to the border of the fault definitive, and so we have to program some intervention for maintenance. That could be the cleaning or the realignment of the detector. Another things that you can do if you're not able in short time to make the maintenance is that from the controller, so from the ground, you can increase the signal, the signal of transmission, so that you can compensate what is loose from the detector that is in this moment 30. And this allow you to have more time to set the maintenance in finding the right day, the right week. Clearly, this is not something that you can do and wait then 6 months, but maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks, depending from the site and how is in reality dirty the detector. You can, and this can help a lot of that. As regard a building of movement caused by the this alignment of the optical beam, ILIA is not some has some of our competitors with some self-aligning motorizing or other things like that. But we have decided after many tests that we use a double, and we see there in a picture, a double transmitter. So we have a double cone that can grant the same condition also with the movement of every possible hole in which you have installed the beam. And this can compensate really the signal and give you the continuity of the perfect work of the detector. So this is some basic features of ILIA. You have the access to the control unit that is at the ground level with a pass protected by password, and this is to ensure that the system cannot be tampered with by nobody. You can change the password after the first installation from the default one, so that nobody can really put the hand in the controller and change the threshold or other things. We have the control of field disturbances for a calibration always correct. It means that we are always in the controller. We can see which are the disturbances of the site where we are installing the detector, and with these, following what is in the technical manual, you can set the exact threshold for this kind of application to avoid any possible false alarm. As told, we have also the self-check of threshold and the self-compensation up to the maximum possible. There is possibility of manually increasing the signal to compensate, and this is what I explained before. We can make the remote test via the controller. In the controller, you can have from 1 up to 8 detectors connected. And you can make the remote test of alarm and a fault for each single detector to look if really they works, and if you have the good answer by the control panel looking that every kind of signal arrive. We have a double local control with signaling of the events displayed on the controller. Then we have the LED on the detector, and we have a repeating LED also in the controller. So we have, in any case, a local signal on the detector, a signal basically on the controller, and in the controller you can read exactly what happened and which is the detector, if you have more than one connected, that give you the alarm, the fault condition, the over signal, and so on. There is filtering and noise accessories to solve unknown problems also after installation. For example, inside ILIA has just a solar filter to avoid that there is any disturbances by the UV, and the diaphragm that is settable for the distance, and this can be used if you have problem of some kind of disturbances given, I don't know, from pipes or other things that you find on the line of the beams, so that this is protected by this false reflection or disturbances, and you can set it and in a good way and preserve that the thresholds will work in any case at the best. So this can give you really the you can be certain that it works very good in all the conditions. There is a complete directional stability over time. As I told, we decided to have this double beam instead to have other things, and it works. And this allow also to have a very wide misalignment angle. You can say that we have more than 1 degrees in each direction at 200 meters. So this, I think it's very guaranteed that it's not necessary to have some self-realigning. The operating distance is from 10 to 200 meters, and this is certified. And the certified protection rate is in IP65. Then it's clearly ROS compliant from the beginning, so everything is completely without any kind of hazardous chemical substance, lead, and any other things. The connection is by a serial line S485 at 4 wires. The sensitivity, as I told, it's adjustable and selectable over a very wide range. I said it's more than 16 different kind of threshold that is selectable using the control unit CRLS or the CLI that we will see after. There is high immunity threshold to avoid environmental disturb with dust, frost, and pro version of the controller that can help you to have again some more threshold for very, very critical environment. The automatic test alarm function can be used. You has told the maintenance request that can help you in any case to look if the detector has some problem. For example, you can have also the maintenance request if we have, for example, some machinery in industrial application that give some vapor, some dust that is standing in the air maybe for some minutes. Maybe that the signal decrease, you go to the maintenance request, you have this signal, so you can set eventually a different threshold knowing that it occurred this phenomena in the plant. And all these you can do by directly on the ground without to make any other modification at the detector, so you don't have to climb. There is the automatic reset of the detector after a break in infrared beam, and this has possible to have a delay up to 90 seconds and with the Pro also up to 4 minutes. So this means that if you put this kind of detector in places when we have, for example, crane bridge or lift or other things, robots and everything, if they passing by in 30 seconds, 1 minute, 1.5 minutes, they can blind the beam, but the detector don't send any signal of fault to the control panel. It just take in memory, and after this is passed by, it will become immediately operative without losing nothing. If you have problem in the communication with the RS485, there is also possibility in the controller to make a check with a self-tester, so you know that everything is corrected in a good way. The power supply is 24 volts DC, and the angle misalignment, as I told you, is 1 degree max at 200 meter for the transmitter receiver system. Working temperature here is as the basic is -20 and plus 65. Okay, storage temperature is a little bit higher, but then we will see that there is an increase on that. The EMC test has been done up to 30 voltmeter with the VDS protocol. The power supply is plus and minus 20%, so to grant that there is no any problem if there is a decrease of the 24 volts. The cable tip minimum section is 0.5 square millimeters with 4 wires. It means that if you have really also a little size of cable, there is no any problem, and there is no need of shielded cable for the connection. The maximum cable length is 1,200 meters from the control unit to the last detector of the line. So I think that for one beam detector, it's a long way to go. The maximum permitted coverage area is 1,600 square meters per detector, but this is normally what happened here in Europe in the majority of country. Then it has been to follow the national standard requirements to understand if this is too much or not. The width cover normally is considered about 15 meters, and also for this has to be followed the national standard requirements. The operating distance, as we said, is from 10 to 200 meters. It's also for the angle misalignment repeated, because we have to talk that also the ILIA have the reflection model that is up to 4 degrees as max disalignment. And the normal color is jet black 9005 RAL, and there is also the white version eventually. And materials is a very special kind of plastic from Norile with a flame class VU0 self-extinguishing. So these follow also all the UL standard and not only the EN standards for the certification of the detector. Something new of this year we have everybody has to be done in the last 1.5 years. Renew it with the EN 412 certificate as for 2015 edition, and we have just made the adding 6 gigahertz EMC test with positive results. This will be put in the next test report of ILIA that we are waiting from the VDS. In accordance with the next step of certification for the European country, the option with requirement will require some more features for documents and indication. And this is something that we have just made and presented to VDS just to be ready for what happens in 2025. So we are just a little bit now earlier in advance respect also some other competitors. Now ILIA has been tested for installation at -30. So from the -20, now we have -30 tested with positive results. Then the renewed certificates for UL version, the last of 268, with nuisance cooking test valid also for Canada. So you can use this kind of detector now with new certification UL really in any places. Now I have to tell also you that you can, starting from now, set all eventual questions on the chat of the meeting, so that after we can give you the answer about your questions. Then, when you use the pins detector, clearly the main is for industrial application of harsh environment. We have told compensation algorithm for dust accumulation that can grant you a very long life. There is no any problem to installing the detector in the trusses or other installation like that. And also, we have some place like with the dust, you see the Eurologistic recycling in Hamburg. You can work really without any problem. And normally, you must have the maintenance as for everything. But after the test with different technologies, with different beams and so on, this is the one that has been decided to use by the majority of people that make this kind of protection for this kind of plants, because grant the more time from one maintenance to the other continue to work. And with the feature of the maintenance, you also can have a warning about the fact that we are near to be on the fault condition with the detector. Fire code and standard, this is something that can be considered from 10 to 200 meter, 15 meters. So this is a kind of installation that you can find. This is what is in the BS standards, but it's also something that you can use for the majority application. Clearly, with ILIAS, you can have all the height of installation. Also, depending here from the standards, for example, we in Italy have up the maximum at the moment in the standard, it's up to 20, but it's allowed to use the ping detector also up to 40, 45 meters. And this with the class A ASD, the only kind of detection that you can use in so high ceiling. For different installation, normally starting from 10 or 12 meters, depending on the standards, you have to set a second line of detection. This can be done exactly with ILIA. And if you have no more than 8 detector in the same hole, you can just check also this double level of beam detector directly from one side on the ground level. This also is an indication about how to can be installed the detector in this kind of application, and this is, you can see, is one of the sites of the Alibaba. This is another application, and it's Edmonton commercial, and this is also something that must be told. We here we have tires. Tires, you know, have a very dirty and heavy and black smoke. With ILIA, you don't have the problem in this kind of smoke that will blind the detector and you get the fault instead the alarm. Because in any case, the microcontroller that is inside, Luke has set not only to the obscuration, but also in the modulation, and give you the alarm in any case, also with this kind of smoke that could be also the one of polyurethanes and something like that. The mount on solid structure. Normally, everywhere must be remembered that you can set a beam detector in a very solid surface. But if you can't, you can find the solution, and also with metal sheet cladding, ILIA can be mounted, and with some little trick also you can avoid that there is the big movement of the detector. We just discussed before this presentation that then if there is some necessity to have also technical details to go into the deep and so on, we will eventually organize a meeting in the next time. Okay. This is what is inside the BS for the general applicable maximum ceiling height, and you see, and what is to be considered here is that ILIA has the possibility to work in a range from 4.5% to 60% of obscuration. And there is no any other detector that can reach, especially the 4.5. In fact, we call ILIA high sensitivity beam detector. Clearly, we have seen many places where normally it's not usable to have the high sensitivity, but sometimes you need it, and with ILIA you can reach. Okay. So this is the portfolio of beam, the security beam. You have the BSD 535, the ILIA inversion, ILIA normal and ILIA UL, the ILIA Pro, and the last one from last year's, the ILIA ATEX. ILIA ATEX, just to give you some more details, it's an end-to-end, so transmitter receiver from 10 to under 20 meters, has a degree of 2 meters instead of 1, and it's from minus 30 to plus 65 operating temperature degrees, and is IP66. This is suitable especially for eventually different hazardous area, and we will see them. This is all what you can have with ILIA, because ILIA has also to say that on the VDS certificates of ILIA N5412 2015 and with CE marking, ILIA is the only one at the moment that is considered a system, because you have the product that is certified EN5412, you have the short circuit isolator certified EN5417, and you have the controller that has been certified EN5418. So they are considered really intelligent interfaces certified between the detector, so the field, and the control panel. And this is the only series of beam detector that can do that. The Lidl controller CRLS, it's the Pro controller. It's the one that can give you the possibility to have from 2 to 5 detectors connected. The CLI controller gives you the possibility to have from 2 to 8 detectors connected. The detector is a control unit, sorry, the controller is a control unit for programming, calibration, performing of remote tests, online detectors. You have a basic configuration of 2 detectors. You have an expansion board for the maximum that can have the connection from 3 to 8 detectors, and this can grant you also the loop closure if you want to have to be served in any case that eventually cut off the line or short circuits of one of the beam don't make that you lose a part of the plants, because if you cut the line, if you have a short circuits and you make the loop closure, everything can works in any case, and you have the right signal of the controller that give you the indication about what happens and in which part of the plants. This is on-site installation and ground level, so you don't have after to make the first alignment in elevation. Then you don't have to make any other climbing on. Everything could be done directly from the controller. The alarm and default outputs can be programmed for each individual detector. If you want it normally opened or normally closed, the different threshold from one detector to the other. If you have a controller in one side, maybe near the control panel, and you have the detector in different premises of the same areas to protect. The control unit and the control panel reset facility. You can reset eventually an alarm on event directly on the controller or with a dedicated connection directly from the control panel. So you don't have to take off eventually power and so on. On the other side is also to say that all the memory of thresholds and programming is inside the detector. So if something occurred to the control panel, to the controller, sorry, you can change one by one, just enter into the menu, set how many detector you have, set the self alignment of that, and the self threshold of them, and it's immediately working without any other things. So there is no problem if you have a break or a fault or a burning inside of the controller. You can set it immediately without do any other things on the detector. With CLI, you have many superior characteristics. We just give you some roughly idea, but there is many of that. Clear, it's a large internal volume. I mean that from the CRLS and CLI, there is a big difference. CLI is more or less 5-6 times more bigger. So you have a large internal volume. You have cable entry using PG9 so that you can grant, in any case, the IP rating, because it's to say that also the controller and CLI has the IP 65 rating protection degree. The CLI has also double independent power supply input, so you can have also redundancy of power supply in case you work in a place where there is problem with the general electrical power supply. Double serial line for connection to the detectors. And also with the CLI, you can, if you want, to have the loop off also if you have just one detector. With the CRLS, this is not possible. You must have the expansion board from 3 to 8, but with CLI, you can do that also. You have the storage of events with a log with possibility of reading by PC or download by USB, but also you can directly read on the controller. So you are on the site and you can immediately react to any problem to look what happens and how to solve directly there. Eventually, if you have some problem, you can download what is the memory of the controller, send them to the technical assistants so they can read it and give you the answer about what happens and what you can do to solve the problem of faults or false alarm or other things that can occur. Clearly inside has a clock or calendar that is not inside the little controller. The alarm reset is by specific menu and or by the control panel by dedicated input here. There is an internal mounting plate and DIN rail so that you can eventually set the interface inside with the control panel directly inside. For example, they will be used. Now we have finished the test for the possibility to use the interface XLM35 of Securiton with ILIA. So then I think for the beginning of next year, we have to release it and make the last test, but in VDS, all the tests has been handed. You can use directly the connection just with this module to the control panel to do everything by them. Store events for each single detector and with a real-time analysis and recording range adjustable by menu. So I can decide if I want to see what happens in the plant every 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day, and so on, to look exactly which is the possible problem I can find. Clearly, there is a bigger display with full event description, and we can see up to 5 contemporary message of events scrolling and to have also more information. Also, this is in self-extinguishing material, and the memory is more of 4,000 events. It's not something like a control panel, but you have also to understand that if you have also connected 8 detectors, so for 8 beam detectors to arrive to 4,000 events of recording, it's not bad. Alarm, pre-alarm, and fault outputs, both for each single detector and for general purpose. So in the CRLS controller Pro and in the CLI controller Pro, you have also the possibility with the ILIA Pro, because this must be connected together, to have the pre-alarm and the alarm from a single detector, and these allow you to set some also very special application. We can see some picture after, and it's the only one that you can find on the market that has this kind of possibility. So I set 2 different thresholds in one detector. I have the pre-alarm, I have the alarm. I can use these to make different give different kind of answer or input to the field. If I have to close some door instead of start with some siren or other things directly from the controller to the detector. This is the general output for reporting the maintenance request, and also you have the general output for pre-alarm, alarm, and fault. So if in some application, for some reason, you don't want to have the single indication in the control panel of alarm, pre-alarm, fault, and maintenance request, you can have just a general, so one cable to the control panel for one of these 4 options. And then when you go to the controller, you look which is the detector that give you the this signal. So there is also the possibility to don't connect every single relay output for each single detector. Sorry. As I told before, this is certified by VDS as EN 5412, also with the other, is certified also by the Russian standard for the Russian market by FNIPO, and other certificates are actually pending more or less all over the world. The setting of the languages actually is Italian, German, English, Polish, and other are in progress, and we will set what to do. And we have the possibility with the basic CLI to set the different kind of software. This kind of controller CLI that is on the market since the last 3-4 years can be in any case also suitable and compatible with all the ILIA models produced after the May 2009. So also if you have an old plans when you have some problem and you want to investigate and put this kind of controller instead of the little one to understand really time by time what happens, find a solution, this is something that could be done, and without any problem you can connect in the same exactly manner. On the technical documentation, you have also these tables that can help with the main features of the different kind of controller you have and the different CLI controller you have with the single detector, what you can connect and which are the features that you can have. So this is just an overview that can help during especially the choice of the right model of ILIA and the right model of the controller to use. This is the ATEX version, just to remember that this is the areas where it can be used. So you see the Z1, 2, 21, and 22. And for this has the certification and can be put there. These are just some application. Okay. There is a serial of accessories that can be used. The first is the SOHE, that is this big box, has been asked by a German customer where they put ILIA in some places where the very big dust, and the problem is not that dust goes into the detector, but that sometimes in these places they have to wash completely the sides with very big high pressure waters and so on, and this can give some problem moving the detector and so on. So they decide to find out some possibility to protect, and we found this. We produced this kind of box. You see there is also a cap to put when there is the washing, for example. But in any case, this is also a double protection IP65 and can be used in environmental when we have chemical vapors that can damage in time the detector. Because it's double protection, detector is inside and continue to work. If you put the detector inside this protective housing, we don't lose anything in length and anything in thresholds. Then the other is the clean air barrier. If you want to put this on the protective housing to have the air that continuously clean the dust that can be on the ring, the frontal ring of the housing of the detector. Protective cage if you use in places like sport halls, for example, where it can be eventually damaged or pushed and so on. And the wall ceiling brackets that can be something that you can use without any problem to passing by problems of installation on some ceiling with some obstacle, getting down from some ceiling with problems or other things. And it's an extendable one that comes from 30 to 50 centimeter in the middle of the detector. So you grant to have, as we have seen at the beginning, the 50 centimeter of distance from each kind of wall, ceiling, and eventually obstacles. As we told, we have the IP65, so it means totally protected against dust and protected against low pressure jets of water from all direction with limited ingress permitted. And this is the best you can do. The coated glass on the front repel the dust, water droplet, grease, or dirt. In fact, if you put also ILIAs and it used in a frigo cell or other places where you have the control of temperature with minus 10, minus 20, something like that, and you have, in any case, the possibility that steam is inside, the steam doesn't stay on the front of the detector because the drops goes down. So there is the problem that this can cause eventually the fault condition of the detector in this kind of installation. So the anti-reflective effect ensures the signal clarity in any case, and this clearly improves the durability of the optics in time. What you have also to say about this is that Hazagar asks, all the lenses inside are still in glass, and is something different from the competitor make in many different cases. And that is patented by us for the opening of the beam. What it's again to say about the IP65, that is not a self-declared IP65 with some internal test, but we have the test report made by an international standard institute in which have been tested both detector and controllers to get the IP65 certification. Okay, so the extended sensitivity. Here you have, sorry, the drawings about what we said about before, what ILIA can do. You see what is the maximum given from competitors, so from 10 to 50% of obscuration. We go down to 4.5 and up to 60%. And going to the 60%, we pass from 16 to 23 different thresholds that can be applied to the detector. We have the unique dual infrared transmission. As I said, you can see the double cone in front of the detector, and this can grant, in any case, up to 5 meters of deviation tolerance. So this is why we don't use any kind of motorized optics inside. This is just to give an idea about how it works for the smoke's density and for the heat radiation of a fire. And this is the frequency and the amplitude with which ILIA works, and actually is the only one that can give you this kind of performance, especially for very dusty environment or critical environment where you cannot find other solution with other kind of technology or detectors. Okay, this is just a specification about what we said before, but just to give you an explication about what we have seen in the drawing before. About this is also to say that also the part of the heat radiation, so the fire detection, has to be set in the detector. So also with these, you have different thresholds to avoid, for example, to put a minimum, the maximum sensitivity in a place where you have problem with high, with very, with heat or warm during some season for some kind of working principle of the places you have to protect and so on. So you can set also these thresholds of the fire to avoid anything and to grant the maximum possibility to detect in any case without false alarm. Okay, I see we are near to the end of time. So this is what we said. So we have also the auto calibration function. So as I told, you have to change the controller. You do everything immediately without do anything on the platform. This is some actual project where has been inserted the ILIA probing detector. So you can see the kind of materials are inside with the dust and powder, vapors and everything, and it works without any problem. This is other application in chemical industry in Vietnam. This is the, we have seen before, the aerologistic recycling in Hamburg. This is other places where ILIA has been put, and this is what is in the environment, and you have to to preserve the detector, and it must work in any case. What is possible also with ILIA is the redundant installation. I mean that you can put two, as in this case, this is the Audi factory near Munich, and we have the double ILIA Pro, so 4 different thresholds on the same line, and this protect all the chain of production. So to be sure that nothing occur with false alarm, you can do this possible redundant installation, and in case that both of the detector or one of the detector has the double reach the double threshold, in this case you will have the alarm and the stopping of the chain. This is another application in a waste recycle plants where ILIA has to start with an extinguishing system. So also with the beam, with this kind of beam ILIA Pro, we can have double threshold redundant system and give command to extinguishing system or other that normally has not been commanded by beam detectors. Some reason more, very quick. For some detector, before installation, for competitors, you have the necessity to choose the required detector flow rate and define the viewing angle. With ILIA, this is not so. I mean that if you have this installation with some other competitor and you have problems, you have to go on again on the scaffolding on the platform to make the new alignment, to make the new setting and so on. With ILIA, you don't have to do that because when you have made the alignment, everything could be done by the ground. During installation with some other competitor, in any case, it's necessary to wait at minimum 10 minutes before having confirmation of correct signal setting. So who said that with ILIA, you have the necessity to make by hand the alignment. In any case, the timing to do that also with a detector that is self-aligned has time is more or less the same. And we surely with ILIA, we can grant a maximum angular misalignment in any case in respect to the many of the detector present on the market. You have to see also that for technical reason, the self-alignment works only with reflective models. You don't have any transmitter-receiver model on the market with self-alignment. So this also technically must be considered. ILIA Pro is transmitter-receiver. You have also the reflection system if you want. This is available and is in the catalog of Securiton. But in any case, also this has to be set manually. And this is, in any case, granted with the same angle as we said before, or bigger as we go up to 4 degrees. So in some model also, you can set a threshold of very dusty environments, and they say that they call industrial mode, and you can go in competition with ILIA Pro in some installation when there is very problem of dirty, dust, and so on. In reality, is to look carefully in the instruction because it has been written, at least in a couple of our competitors, that if you set this mode, is to be used only in UL plants and not in EN plants. Installer make these and they don't care because, okay, I resolved the problem, maybe, because with this kind of low, I can say, yes, low sensitivity, I have no false alarm. Maybe true, but in any case, it's not compatible what is inside the standard. Then we have also the feedback that with some of these features, there is no very performing and the problems of false alarm continue. Okay, then for some competitor to set some basic parameter is necessary to use software. With ILIA, you don't have to use software. You can use everything directly by the 2 different kind of controllers. These are the all the main strengths of ILIA. Okay, so this is what we discuss more or less up to now. I have seen that we are now at the end of time and we need to have time for eventual questions. So I just go through very quick to look if I forget something. And one of these is that it is the only one to have manual but micrometric pointing. When you make the alignment, every turn of the point for the alignment is precise and has half degree for each turn. So you have no problem also to calculate between transmitter and receiver how many turns you have to do to have the same exactly alignment. So this is something that can help. The memory of the parameters is in the detector, and this is what I say, there is no optional work. So, yes, here is truly a unique detector for features and setting possibilities. It's the only linear certified as a system, and with the Pro version is that linear, the only one that has a double selectable threshold pre-alarm and alarm as we have discussed before. Okay, I talk about the diaphragm, the wide angular misalignment, the maintenance signal that can give you a lot of possibility to avoid problems in time, working directly on the controller or programming the maintenance. And okay, the ILIA is also the only beam detector at the moment that has reached the SEAL 2 and 3 certificates for all the line. And this is also something that is a guarantee more of stability and functionality over time in every kind of installation. Okay. This is the actual certificates that the BDS, the EX, the UL, the ESC for Russian, the SEAL 2 and 3, and the ROS compliance. In Germany, ILIA has been considered by the sorry, by the recyclable material and waste department and so on, the best detector to be used for the protect of this kind of environment. And this has been published in 3 different magazines of this branch of work, just to give one more time the news that for very special environment, the ILIA Pro is in any case the best detector you can use. So with the conclusion, we have the false alarm reduced and maintenance intervals at 10 acceptable frequency, and staff stays alert and reacts skillfully to alarm signal. Fire alarm are reacted upon in a professional manner before they become a major fire incident. Loss prevention is maximized, risk for business interruption is minimized, and cost for maintenance is commensurate and, as I told you, very low in respect to all other detectors you can find actually on the market. Here you have, I know that the presentation will be sent to every one of you. Here you have just pictures of some different kind of installation in which ILIA has been used at the moment. So many thanks for your attention.
Paolo, we have a question, and the first one is, if we have 8 ILIA detectors and they want to get a signal from the CLI Pro to fire alarm control panel, do they need extension relay module for signaling, or is it built in the CLI Pro?
No, it depends. I mean that actually you should have the relay card inside. When you will use the security and control panel with the XLM35, this will be not necessary anymore.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, why generally beam detectors are used instead of other fire detection technologies?
Well, there is no any kind of technologies that is perfect for every kind of environment. So it's clear that with a point detector, you have problems that is just located the smoke. So you have to go to the point. In some place, you cannot put the aspiration detector because there is too much dirty, you have problem of maintenance, or there is problem on installation. Theoretically, the beam detector should be, I say theoretically, should be the best detector because it covers completely the area you have to protect. Clearly, also this, as it is an optical system, could have environmental problem that take to have false alarm and so on, and this must be considered. So the best is coverage of wide area solution where no ceiling can be maybe, for example, we have also some installation of ILIA. This is not the case we have seen up to now, but with some my God, high ceiling, but with paintings or some other kind of special architecture where cannot be set point or ASD detection, and ILIA working from wall to wall can solve the problem also in this kind of application. So it's a possibility that we give to cover the maximum wide area with one point and to have the maintenance in one only point along the wall, nothing else.
The next question is, if it's required to evaluate differences in height of installation for different ceilings, which is the minimum height required?
Yes, so I mean, it depends clearly from the maximum height, but mainly for what we have, I take that from our old manuals and also for what we have in some of the European standard. To work properly, a beam detector should stay at least 30-40 centimeter around the maximum height of the ceiling and go down to the maximum of 10 or 15% of the total height. The difference is between the kind of ceiling. If I have a flat ceiling, if I have a shed or other things like that. Normally with the flat, you go down maximum to the 10, and with the shed or other things like these, you have to go down up to the 15. This is the main. And this is the maximum. Clearly, you can work at 5%, 8%, 10%, also where you have the 15. What is, for example, allowed in Italy is to go down up to 25% if you put one more detector each, two, just to give a biggest coverage of the area. Technically, I can say that if you go down to the 25% in a hole, in any kind of room with a maximum of 6-7 meters of height, there is no so many problem that the smoke cannot arrive in time. But if you have more than 8 meters and you go down up to 25%, this is normally too much. The detector will react, but you have to think that it's, as I told you, an optical object. He said the smoke for accumulation, I have to set the threshold, and when the threshold is reached, I give the alarm. If I just see less smoke that is passing by, I am looking that something happens, but I don't pass the alarm. So it, in any case, work, but it depends if you want really that it works better and with a really good threshold for this area to protect, you have to set with normally the maximum of the 15% of distance from the maximum height of the ceiling.
The next question is, why is it necessary to have a free area of the beam in every direction? What happens if it is not respected?
Happens what I said more or less at the beginning. I mean that as I show you, we have a cone. If I passing by a very narrow spaces, I said that we can work with our detector also in 30 centimeters. We can work optically, but the beam that I open, that I arrive with ILIA, I said also up to 2 meters, is completely absorbed by the obstacles. So this means that you have to increase the power of the transmitter more to reach the receiver, and the setting will not be the best that you can set. On the other side, if you have very big movement of the application, you can also have in short time the maintenance request because there is a misalignment that allow the detector to work, but not properly as it should be. We should do, yeah.
So which is a real physical coverage given from beam in wide angle, and which is the one of ILIA?
Well, you mean that which is the maximum angle we can reach for misalignment with ILIA? Is that we have seen before. So we have more 1% in each direction. Sorry, oh my God, one plus or minus one, yes, in each direction with transmitter receiver system, up to 4 with a reflection system. So with ILIA Pro, you really arrive to 200 meters and you have 1 meters, up to 5 meters of possibility of movement without give any fault signal in any case. You have to consider that there is only one model that gives more of ILIAs, but it's not with the infrared part, but it's with the UV part that you have. And this is also something that in reality has not been tested because in the M5412, in the ISO 72 in part 12 and so on, The testing actually of the beam detection is made only for the smoke with the infrared. For example, we have the fire detection, but this is not inside the certificates. What we have with the our detector is the test declaration of VDS that they have tested this function and it works properly. But it's not also if they have tested and it is positive, they cannot insert in the certificate because actually it's not allowed. We are working to the possibility to have in the future when we have to the IM decommission for the next EM 5412 to have the possibility to consider also the double technology of the beam detector so that we and also a couple of our competitors that are working on that can really grant everything in certificates to the customer.
So I move on to the next question. Is it possible to mix different detectors in a plant? For example, an aspiration system and a beam detector?
Yes, sure. You have to think that it's not theory. You have our job is to detect, and what we have to detect is smoke, heat, maximum heat, difference in heat, and what you want, flame, heat, and cold. So this is the main. If you have smoke detection and you want to use the beam, we have some application here in Italy. Well, we don't make application, but our customer. And also in other country, I know in something in Germany, in Netherlands, and Belgium, and so on. They use, for example, in very big hall of warehouses and logistic, the beam detector on the higher level, and with problem they have with scaffolding and other in the lower levels, they put inside the aspiration system. So you have the same phenomenon to detect, and you have two different technology that help to solve it, to find solution, to have a complete coverage and to be sure for detection in this kind of plants.
So what is necessary to define the right model and the right installation?
Well, first of all, if some specifier want your help, you have to ask not for the plane, but for the section of the place where you have to make the application. So you can see which kind of ceiling is, which is the maximum height, if you have inside some plants or other that can disturb the detector, and knowing what is inside the production, the storage, and other things, you can also there define if you can use the detector that see only smoke or the one with smoke and fire. With ILIA, there is no this problem because you can do everything in any place because we have the double technology in ILIA. So this can be granted in any case. And also, if you want to use the reflection system, this is also the double beam and the double technology too.
So what are the main advantages of the ILIA over other beam detectors?
But I think that this is what we have seen during our presentation. I mean that we have told about the fact of the double beam, the maximum coverage, the possibility to have also the checking of the disturbances, so to find immediately solutions with the CLI to understand exactly time by time what happens in a plant if we have to find solutions also after the installation because they change maybe something in the place and we want to work in any case with the same kind of detector. Then you have all the other features as the IP65 granted and the possibility to have the short circuit isolator inside that can be connected to every kind of panel, the possibility to manage everything, really everything from the controller after that you have made the first alignment on the plant. You can also, if you have to make a roughly, you can do it. A roughly alignment, just the mounting, because then you have to wait that they finish all the construction to put in service the detector. You can do that so that you can, in any case, make so that the detector is working immediately, also if it's not completely well aligned. And this is another things that you can do without any problem. And this, I think, is only one that can grant you also this kind of functionality.
Thank you, Paulo, for the presentation, and thank you all for attending our webinar. And we look forward to seeing you on the 8th of December for our next webinar, how to set up the aspiration system 531 in 15 minutes. So thank you once again for your participation.
Thank you to you, to everybody.